Welcome, everybody. My name is Ivana Marjanovic, and I'm hosting the talk in front of Kunstraum Innsbruck. It's a space where I'm working since 2019 as an artistic and managing director. And we are having currently, until tomorrow afternoon, the show Haunting from the Future, where we have Nina Hoechtl and two more collectives that Nina has been since 2012 working with, INVASORIX and Secretariat for Ghosts, Archival Politics and Gaps. Yes, and it's a show where we departed from Nina's film Delirio Guerro, that you will see a little bit more or have an insight a little bit more later. And conceptualize the show as a look from the future back to the present that is also challenged by the histories of colonialism and imperialism, and also practices that are bringing questions and critique about these topics. And as this is the last event that we do, we have also Stephanie Misa with us. I will introduce them separately for those of you who don't know them more in detail. It's a kind of like a group of people that know each other from the Viennese context of different projects, and also practices that on certain aspects share some common strategies or some topics, but still discussing them from different points of departure and different backgrounds. Yes. So welcome, and I will just go on introducing quickly the Stephanie. I will say. At the moment, Stephanie has actually it doesn't have, because it's due to the lockdown. The show is on hold with the title MAGA Meets Marie at the gallery Gundula Gruber in Vienna. And we will talk about the Hunting from the Future and the show that Stephanie has in Vienna that should reopen probably around 18th of April and will run then until 1st of May. Stephanie graduated at the Academy of Fine Arts in Vienna in 2012. She has a master's from the Interactive Telecommunications program in New York, Tisch School of Arts, and is currently a doctoral researcher at the University of Arts in Helsinki. Her work displays an interest in complex and diverse histories relating to these topics through her installations, sculptures, videos, prints, and writing, bringing forward the questions of identity, authenticity, hybridity, and embodiment. Her projects include future residencies at Artspace Sydney and RMIT Intersect in Australia, and participation at the 9th Bucharest Biennale and the upcoming Research Pavilion 4 during the first Helsinki Biennale in 2021. And Nina Hoechtl is an artist, researcher, educator, and activist, born in Stockerau in Austria. She's currently living in Mexico City and also actually currently in Vienna. This was what we wrote before she came back. She studied at the University of Applied Arts in Vienna and at Piet Zwart Institute in Rotterdam. She completed her PhD at the Goldsmiths University of London and her postdoctoral research at the Institute of Aesthetic Research, UNAM, Mexico. And she's currently teaching at the two universities in Mexico, one in Mexico and one in Spain. Her work includes writing and developing videos, performances, installations, and exhibitions. In 2019, she participated at the Mexicali Biennale with INVASORIX and is participating this year, now when she's back in Mexico, with the work Delirio Guerro. And in 2018, she received with Secretary for Ghosts, Archival Politics and Gaps, the Women's Voices Now Best Documentary Feature Award, which was a film about dealing with the archive of the Association of Women Artists in Vienna. Yes, welcome. maybe you want to say just hello, that
Hello,
I'm not the
hello.
only one talking.
Yeah,
Hello,
thanks a lot
everyone.
for introducing us. As I always say, an over-educated white person. So, yes.
Yeah, I'm also
yeah,
in the
thanks.
overeducated boat, I think. Those who never stopped going to school.
Yeah. So, yeah,
Well,
yes.
I'm also not that overeducated as Nina, but still quite educated, and yes, it made sense all that time. I will share the screen so we can then go into the presentation, and then we just a second. Bildschirm teilen. Yes.
Perfect. Yes. We actually can go already to the next
Yes,
slide.
exactly, because we wanted to share a little bit the background of you knowing each other and the history of that kind of friendship, collaboration, and exchange.
So Steph and I, we thought to share this image with you. That's an installation view of the Macho Intelectual that, yeah, INVASORIX has been writing, shooting, performing in 2015. But for the context at the Kunstraum Innsbruck, we actually combine it with a historical photo. As you can see, it's a photo taken in 1902 by a photographer called Moritz Neher. And it shows the association members back then, 1902. Actually, it was the exhibition when they opened the Beethoven frieze, the famous Beethoven frieze of the secession in Vienna. And as you can see, it has only male artists. And that was also one of the reasons why in 1910, 8 years later, the Austrian Association of Women Artists was founded. And that's how Steph and I met, because Steph and I, we are both members of the association. And there are still a lot of things that have to change within the art structures we both belong to from different positions. We are differently situated, Steph and I. And one of the things is, yes, as we all know, that still women artists or artists who identify as women are a lot less represented in the art scene. But on top, what nowadays is also a big issue is that obviously also a lot of people of color, BIPOC, people with migratory background, they are also a lot less represented. So Steph, I pass you on the word that you share how it is right now. The board situation of the association.
Of the VBKÖ, yes. So
yeah.
I actually joined a little bit later than Nina. Like I entered the VBKÖ, or the Austrian Women's Association of Women's Artists, in 2016. Nina was a member much earlier than I was, and has seen it go through a lot more phases than I did. The phase that I was able to catch and be very kind of involved in was to relook at the statutes of the Vereine, which were actually like quite old, as any Vereine statuten would be. You know, it is very legal, basic language, but at the same time, a lot could be read into how to interpret the legal language. So during my time in the interim board, we came up with an addendum, or just in a way like a manner of how we wish the association to behave, or the goals that we wish to achieve within it. And it was mostly an establishment of an agreement of mutual care between the members, and basically how we would like to see each other in a very dignified way, how we basically did not at all tolerate any type of physical, verbal, or emotional violence, etc., etc. Things that should be tacit within organizational structures, but we felt needed to be said and agreed upon by all the members. And we're really super proud that we recently had a General Assembly in when was it? Last year, 2020. Like right in the break between lockdowns, in the summer, in September. And we've been able to elect our first fully BIPOC board. And it's now run by, I think Mika Maruyama is here, and Louise Deininger is joining us as well. So they're part of the board, and structure has also been looked at, where there's now 3 co-presidents. And so it's trying its best to be more horizontal in terms of how the structure is. There has to be a structure, as it still is a Verein, and we have to answer to the Verein Polizei. There is such a thing. So, you know, it's kind of interesting to be playing in between the gaps of these things as well, like what's said on paper and what's actually done physically. But yes, so that's kind of the state of things currently at the VBKÖ, and Nina and I are both still active members. So
Yes,
Nina or Ivana.
No,
Sorry.
I just wanted to say that it's one of the very small places, also that, or one of the first places that I got to know in Vienna, that was kind of open to new people who came from different backgrounds, and like the association of IG Bildende Kunst, the association of visual artists, and VBKÖ, the association of women artists, were the 2 organizations that were more kind of aware of the need to open up and also get involved in some political discussions and struggles. And it's even great when I saw the new board, and it's really it was very nice to see this development of the association.
Without further going into the details of the complex past, present, and future of the VBKÖ, it is a totally underfunded association. So the session nowadays has more than 25,000 euros a year budget, and the VBKÖ has around 20, if I'm not mistaken.
No,
So, yes.
I mean, I think the session has almost 1 million in budget.
Almost 1 million. Okay, yeah, well then, okay, yeah. No, then
I mean, I think
even more
if
than
you
I.
look at the most
thought.
current survey of, or the publishing of, I think it's called BMKUS now, of their funding, because they have to do this as a federal body. You'll see that they've been funded 90,000 from the federal government, but they actually also have private sponsors, like you know, as the foundation.
Among them, a bank. And
yes,
so
so it's a very tiny space, but still a space that kind of creates these solidaric approaches. And we also did a project in 2019 after also this experience of doing a festival, Wienwoche, you know, where you have completely other budgets, but still it's important that it exists and that people that it keeps, has relevance. But okay, let's go to the exhibitions of yours now, because we want to tackle some important issues, and then we can later come back to some things that maybe people want to comment. You can write if you have some questions in the meantime, or something is not clear, you can write in the chat, and at the end we will open up for a talk, then we can have more interactive. So I will go back to the presentation.
I will just share, we won't play the Macho Intelectual, I just share the link for people who haven't watched it, that if they're interested, they can
this
watch
is
it.
the video
that
also in the video is this photograph from the Secession Association of Visual Artists in Vienna. And so I can
actually, yeah, Steph and I, as you mentioned already, Ivana, we from different positions, we are differently situated, and we approach whiteness in our works through different ways. And yeah, Steph, please share more about the MAGA Meets Marie. So.
Yes, so I currently have this show up, but not open, at the Gallery Gundula Gruber in Vienna. I just wanted to share, as Nina was digging into the archives of the, of the secession, how I also came about to this work. So what I'm actually showing now are images that were taken at the Capitol riots on January 6th. This was the the time when Trump was holding a public rally at the same time that the votes were being called out in the Congressional Hall in Washington, D.C. So it was basically a very formalized ritual of the, what would you call it, confirmation of the votes that Joe Biden had won the US election. And alongside it, the Trump rally was happening. I'm sure all of you are very familiar with these images in the news, as it was very much all over the place. And what I'm going to show you now and what's going to come up are just a series of the images from this incident, from the Capitol riot of people inside and outside the building. So I have to say, if you notice the man with the mask, the camouflage mask on, and the rooster flag, this was not at the Capitol riot. I just showed this because it shows the insignia of the Proud Boys, which is one of the most right-wing militant groups who were at the Capitol riot. And it's run by this person. This is Enrique Tarrio, who's Cuban American, and he's one of the leaders of this group. So I just wanted to show you all the visuals of this riot. And if you will take note of the iconography and the imagery that's going on here, Statue of Liberty wearing a QAnon t-shirt, Cuban American holding a flag that could actually mean anything. It looks like a clip art version of who knows what, of random symbols juxtaposed together to say Proud Boys. Okay. Ivana, next slide. And of course, the use of all these macho superhuman figures like Rambo and Superman to represent Trump. No? And American flags everywhere. So now we come to a slide of the installation within the Gundula Gruber Gallery. So I have 4 of these banners and they spell out MAGA. And MAGA has been the Trump slogan, meaning Make America Great Again. And I thought it was very important to reclaim what MAGA could mean. What could you make great again aside from America? What could, instead of make, could you minimize America great again? Or could you militarize America great again? Or could you mend aesthetics great again? You know, there's in a way, the banners symbolize a wordplay and a reclamation of the words MAGA, or the letters MAGA, not the word, but the letters. And with these banners, I wanted to play with the iconography and the repetition of also all the symbols that we were seeing through this Capitol riot. Yeah, you could go to the next slide, I think, Ivana. Mm-hmm. And this is the G and A also. Yes, I've also then, because it's an installation shot, so then you also see the second installation in the show called The Seance, which is actually a chandelier sculpture containing black chicken feet candles and made up of 3 different chandeliers. Should I go on? Or yeah.
Sorry, I don't know why it jumped. I think it's okay. We were here.
Yes. And I just wanted to show you a close-up shot of the patterning of the banners, which is like the Q from QAnon, and of course then we have the rooster from the Proud Boys. Yeah.
And I think now you have also realized that for the event of today, we actually combined all these different symbols that have been used in Steph's work, but at the very bottom of that,
for our iconography for this
iconography, yeah, for this talk, and at the very bottom you see this pineapple symbol that you can see on the back of the still that I chose of the Delirio Vero video that it's right now still on until tomorrow at the Kunstraum. It's a fake TV history show where you have a Vera character that you can see here. So Vera is the word for, so the rough translation for Mexican Spanish is white, also a white person, a blonde person, but also a person of high class if she is not white, or they is not white, or he is not white. So this Vera character actually tells about different delirio veros, or white delusion moments starting in the 18th century in Mexico. And I will only talk about now one particular moment here because it's the pineapple symbol. So as you can see in the back and also in the overall that the Vera character is wearing, this makes reference to the pineapple design that Maximilian von Habsburg designed himself, that you can find all over his castle where he was living before he left to Mexico in the middle of the 19th century, when he was actually by Napoleon III, as it many times he's many times called a marionette empire, but that doesn't mean that it didn't have colonial delusions and desires to have also like a land, a territory under his regime. At that particular moment in history in Mexico, there was already a president had been voted. There was a government in place. That president was called Benito Juarez, and he is so far also the one and only president who has indigenous ancestry. So he actually, until he was teenage time, he spoke Zapoteco. He's from the indigenous group Zapoteco in the south of Mexico. And yeah, Maximilian Carlotta, they went overseas to colonize, to try to colonize Mexico back then. And as Maximilian, as any good emperor, as any good son of royalty in Austrian imperial histories, he had been before on journeys, and he had been to Brazil where he got to know the pineapple. And in that particular moment, the Vera is explaining that before he left, he actually, Maximilian, in that painting by Cesare del Agua, that you can also see in the castle in Trieste, he actually compares himself in that painting with Columbus. Ivana, could you please go to the next slide? Because the story, that's the myth that when Columbus was traveling to the New World, he was obviously embraced by open arms by the indigenous groups there. And they gave him as a welcome present a pineapple. And then also the same myth, as you can see, also the drawing from the British Library is in the corner to the left down. This is the moment when Columbus receives pineapple, supposedly. And then Hernán Cortés, the conquistador of Mexico, he also received pineapple. And in the back, we see the design. We see one other design at the castle in Trieste. So this the craziness around the pineapple, and the word explains also in the video that she considers it the symbol of colonialism itself. And we can go now to the next slide. So and this is how we circle back to a chandelier, and in the exhibition setting at the Kunstraum, I have also an installation where you see actually, where you get to know more about the delicious pineapple nowadays and all the complicated economical relationships. And for example, 70% of the pineapples that are imported to Mexico, to the European Union are harvest in Costa Rica. So I don't need to go now into the details, all the implications that has for just such a tiny country as Costa Rica. And you can also see different photos of different obsessions with the pineapple, because the pineapple symbol is all around. But in that particular fragment that I show here, you see actually the chandelier that Maximilian designed for the castle in Chapultepec. That's the castle where he lived and what he and Carlotta redesigned while they were in Mexico City. And it's combined with a pineapple fragment of a queer seafood seafood bar in Mexico City that opened around 3 years ago. That is an important place for the queer community to meet. So that's that. But yeah, we're circling around chandeliers and imperial, imperial motifs and iconography that comes back again and again and again, time again.
Shall I go to the next?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, now we have Stephanie's installation.
Now we have this chandelier, riffing off of Nina's chandeliers. So the title MAGA Meets Marie, well, we've discussed what MAGA means. It's Make America Great Again, and it's really referring to the Trumpist movement in the US. But Marie here is the figure of Marie Antoinette, the very Habsburg figure too. And the revolution that I'm referring to in this case is the storming of the Bastille. So basically this entire exhibition is paralleling of two very different revolutions that happened in very different times with very different motives. Like one revolution was one to democratize the people and to basically get rid of the figurehead who was structurally holding them down, and whereas the other more recent revolution actually had kind of reverse motivations. It was sort of to take back power for somebody who had installed himself as a demigod in a way in this political realm. So the chandeliers are actually a tongue-in-cheek. I mean, this entire exhibition, as you can tell, is also very cheeky. So it is really quite a reference, direct reference to Marie Antoinette. And here is where I play again with this icon of the rooster. The candles that I'm playing with, Ivana, you can go into the next slide, are chicken feet candles. These have been the candles that have been burning on the chandeliers throughout the exhibit. Chicken feet because of the rooster from the Proud Boys, yes, but also this has been kind of a strange obsession for me, and it's been a kind of a thought line that's also in a previous exhibit that I did called Chicken Empire, where I created another banner, which actually took the double-headed eagle, the Austrian symbol of the double-headed eagle, and made it into a double-headed chicken. And in that one, I also made porcelain chicken feet that I, strangely enough, arranged on a mirrored table to look like a wreath, which is another kind of unconscious reference to the Proud Boys, because the Proud Boys do use this wreath. They use the Fred Perry t-shirts. There's something about this wreath that they keep appropriating as well. But the chicken feet in this case are also referring to, like the title of the installation, a seance, kind of a meeting of the spirits of these two revolutions. It's kind of a portal. So this installation is the portal site where the two actually then simultaneously are able to exist in the same space. We can go to the next slide. This is the third installation piece there, and it's quite literally headgear from the Capitol riot, where I'm taking their costumes and recreating them in a way, but queered or changed. The military helmet that you see on the far left is made of fired ceramic. It's called Captain America, Part 1. And the one in the middle, of course, is the very infamous shaman, the Q shaman headgear. And this too is made with resourced fur, so fur that I got in secondhand shops off of Willhaben, and ceramic as well. I made the horns in ceramic. And the third is a cap, a MAGA cap, that I basically, where I took away America to kind of make it a little bit more ambivalent, make what great again? So it was a very small intervention into this very known head piece, but I thought this small interruption was enough to kind of shake it a little bit. And this piece is called the generic fan. We can go to the next slide. So I just wanted to show you another picture of the shaman headgear piece. So you can see that it's actually ceramic and not real horn. But the work to the left is called Captain America 2. And this actually was the starting piece of the entire installation. It looks like a totally normal broom. I bought it in Prosi, if you know Prosi, the store here in Vienna, where you can buy all sorts of things. But in the next slide, you will see why it's being referenced. This is actually the picture that started it all. This is the picture of the Capitol riot that kind of shook me to the core. And it's really, in a way, it's funny because this person is just another one of these rioters dressed in cosplay, kind of in the middle of the frenzy of the riots. But this one struck me because even though you can't tell the gender or even like the identity of this person, as they're very smartly covered head to foot with, devices to not identify them, the broom that they've made into a shield at this point is quite an item. This is called a walis tambo. This is a Filipino broom. It's found in every Filipino household. It's kind of one of those things that every Filipino family brings with them when they immigrate. I know it's a funny thing, like what does a straw broom hold that, everyone should have it, but it's kind of one of those things that you bring or recalls home. And it's super ubiquitous in any Filipino household. So immediately when this picture came out, there was an uproar in the Philippines being like, what is a Filipino doing in the middle of the Capitol riots? And this is a very valid question, I think. Like, what is a person of immigrant background doing supporting a movement that obviously does not have his interests at heart? Like, what leap in logic could you make where you then start to think, yes, a group that doesn't really like me because I'm a person of color is actually okay. I still support their politics. Like, what is it? What kind of thinking could this be? So maybe Nina, I pass it on to you for this next slide.
Actually, I would say it's both our slide, not.
Yes, but I've talked too much already.
It was like when Steph and I, we were like talking about our exhibition, and then the term multiracial whiteness came up. And that's a term coined by Cristina Beltrán. And when we prepared this presentation, we actually thought it might be good to present the 2 minutes to listen to her talking, explaining the term multiracial whiteness, instead of us trying to make it as eloquent as she does. So yeah, please, Ivana, if you could. If you could play.
The chairman of the hate group, the Proud Boys, identifies as pro-Trump extremist group Stop the Steal is Black and Arab. Cristina Beltrán is a professor of social and cultural analysis at New York University, and she uses the term multiracial whiteness to explain why some groups who are disdained by white supremacists embrace white power movements. And she joins us now to explain. Welcome to the program.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
So what do you mean by multiracial whiteness?
So there's been a whole lot of people thinking and theorizing about white supremacy. And all of these scholars share a view that I share, that whiteness is not the same thing as white people, and that whiteness is actually better understood as a political project that has emerged historically and that is dynamic and that is always changing. And so whiteness as an ideology is rooted in America's history of white supremacy, right, which has to do with the legacy of slavery or indigenous dispossession or Jim Crow. And I think it's important to realize just how long in this country legal discrimination was not simply culturally acceptable, but legally authorized. And so we've only been practicing a more consistent form of legal equality for a relatively short time since the 1960s. So Americans have often learned how to create their own sense of belonging through violence and through the exclusion of certain groups and populations.
So what you're saying essentially is that people of other races and ethnicities want to benefit from white privilege by supporting it.
Right.
So we should note that you wrote an op-ed recently in the Washington Post about this, and it stirred up a heated debate.
Ivana,
on
I
social
think we
media.
can stop here.
I want to read what you wrote.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, I will put just a second. I have to do.
Yeah, no stress.
Mhm.
It's done.
Okay.
We could also share that NPR link with you if you want to listen to the entire interview with Cristina Beltrán. It's only 5 minutes long. So, yeah.
So yes, when Steph and I, we were also talking. So yeah, as Cristina Beltrán explained, multiracial whiteness has a lot to do with the history of what is nowadays called the United States. And even though Mexico is a border country, and as many people know, there has been a huge part actually that was once part of the Mexican territory is now part of the US. But yeah, whiteness, what would be the literal translation in Spanish would be blanquitud. And there have been several people also researching on that and discussing it in the Mexican context, but it changes. It's only like, it's literally, it's something like that it has a different history because it has to do with the colonial, Spanish colonial history and the caste policy that was in place, etc., etc. So without knowing Cristina Beltrán, in INVASORIX, we actually wrote a reggaeton song where we have like an amazing reggaeton singer and rap singer Daira Faya with us. She's the great voice. INVASORIX, perhaps just to explain, so we are a group of at the moment we are 4 people, and we like to do things that we're actually not professional in. So we are writing songs. None of us is particularly, none of us went to music conservatory, let's call it that, like that. Sure, there are people that can way better sing than I do and with less accent than I do. But anyhow, so what we wrote in that song is, also my face so wear, white it hurts. There's a mistake. I'm sorry for the mistake. The S is missing in the Spanish, in the English translation, and it addresses internal and external whiteness, wearness. Because yes, within the Mexican context, it's not about whiteness, it's not about white people. It's a structure in place. It's an ideology. It's what you encounter, as we address in this song, as much as in educational settings, also on the dance floor. And this song is presented as a karaoke song. So we see here an installation view, how we installed it at the Kunstraum. So people are invited to sing along, even though you might not speak Spanish, and particularly also Spanish that is used in Mexico City. That's Chilango Spanish, and also Spanish because one of the people of INVASORIX is from Colombia, and there are once again different terminologies in place, words in place addressing white structures. So yeah, you're invited to sing along, and at the same time, we are always doing workshops. Unfortunately, this time, obviously, the rest of INVASORIX was not there. So as you can see, there's this other photo. So what we are doing in these workshops is we are discussing with the participants about whiteness and how they themselves encounter whiteness, etc., in their daily life, but beyond. And at the same time, we bleach t-shirts of color that they bring from the closets to address different issues at stake for them. And Ivana, we can go to the next. And so, yeah, it is as we now all live in this hyper-connected world that I'm not particularly actually into, but anyhow, it's very nice that one of the participants, her artistic name is Gina Disobey. She's also an amazing, you also should Google her. She's an amazing singer and songwriter, and she recently won the protest song contest in Austria. She afterwards actually, after the workshop, she made a photo with one of the t-shirts, because that's something else that people actually that participate in the workshop, they can leave a t-shirt and exchange it with a t-shirt that had been done. So that's a t-shirt that had been done actually when we participated in the Mexicali Biennial. And then she posted the quote of Ruby Amat in relation to white tears. Perhaps a small anecdote, one of the most questions I received, but also when Ivana was around at the Kunstraum, was around but what do you mean? What do you want to say with no to white tears? Does it mean white people are not anymore allowed to cry? And sure, I have also to cry. And I think all this discussion also they were differently, because as I'm also read as a white person, other things could actually happen that would not have happened that would have happened in a different way if I would have mainly been the translator. If the rest of INVASORIX would have been here, my role would have been mainly, for example, the translator, to translate, but not so much being present as the interrogator, let's put it like that. So yes, yeah, I will also share with you the link to the karaoke song if you want to sing at home.
Maybe Stephanie, do you have something immediately to react to, or? Yes, I think it was for me one of the questions that, now when we see the presentations and what are the urgencies, how to deal with, what strategies to create to deal with the performativity of imperialism, with this neo-imperialism, with this right-wing movements, appropriation, and so on, is kind of a lot to deal with this appropriation, reappropriation, and so on. And on the other hand, because Nina said also, but people ask, what do you mean? And we had some experience, because Nina, due to the COVID and complications, and we had some kind of in the end, a nice situation, because she stayed then, she was here for 2 weeks, and then she stayed 2 weeks more. And then we did this installation, activating the invitation that is anyway there to do the t-shirts. But of course, if you do it with people being there, you have a conversation. And there was also, we had a talk with one student from, I think, political scientists or
peace studies.
Conflict peace studies.
Yeah.
What I learned, because for me it's also the question how you curate and how you mediate these contents, because they can, in these contemporary art worlds of spectacular images, it's a lot about making impressions, if something looks cool, or it's something new that we see, it's something, but for us, it's also very important. What does it mean, or what is it communicates? And I think that it's also it adds something when you have this kind of conversations. Even though it's something different if you do performance and then you have this one situation. But exhibition it takes time, and also to read more about things, get informed. And I think for me was this question. We were, Nina, when we did another talk, we had this also when we were talking to some people in Kunstraum Innsbruck, and then some people who see the designs, like the motifs, and each led this special fiber that you made some objects in the ananas, is the question also, what do they get? Because they have their own knowledge and own also. The question is how reflected, how making questions, how much critical thinking, And I think this is one of the kind of like challenges, how to communicate this kind of exhibitions and how to involve with people. And I think it's nice if there is a possibility to have more kind of these situations where you talk to people, because I experienced that, like, having this exchange and conversations, it's quite for people also who visit exhibition, because it's an audience that is not used to this kind of topics, and or partly is not, no?
I think as for example, within INVASORIX, didactic moments, as we many times intervene in educational settings. That's one of our intentions as INVASORIX. So in that sense, we many times immediately on think of didactic strategies in relation to stuff we are doing. I'm not necessarily, I think, for example, the karaoke and the t-shirt bleaching whitening process moment is one that allows that. It was from the beginning on part of our developing. In other works have different processes, and then I think it starts to get a different challenge in the moment you have to think afterwards about it. So then it's like the mediation process happening, where in big museums or in big institutions you have actually a mediation team in place that thinks then of educational moments. What I think is also complicated if it's completely detached. So if the artists are still around, let's put it like that, because yes, if it's completely detached, but I think there are also artists that are actually not at all interested, and fair enough, that are not interested in that exchange. As you said, I mean, I personally, I was very surprised when I stayed. I mean, yes, because of COVID reasons, I stayed way longer than I had anticipated in Innsbruck, and I was very positively surprised actually about how people address complicated issues to me and how you can have a conversation. And that's what I think is actually that's what I'm. But that's me as an artist. I'm interested in that because yes, sure, the moment I'm not so, yeah, openings are nice, don't get me wrong, but I'm actually more interested if there can be, how can different ways of communicating around works happening. So in that sense, like, yeah, that's something I enjoy, that the work in itself becomes one more tool within that we can hopefully together in different ways, not only through talking, try to undo, to challenge, etc. But Steph, yeah, it's completely a different setting in MAGA Marie. That is like a gallery space that recently opened. It's in the 14th district. That's for people that are not familiar with Vienna, but the 14th district is like a richer district. It's a bit, for Vienna standard, it's a bit far out. It's
actually quite close to Schönbrunn as well,
it's close
which
to
is like
so,
interesting in terms
the
of
Habsburger,
the idea.
The Habsburger. It was this Schönbrunn is the
summer palace.
The summer palace of the nowadays a touristic highlight if you come to Vienna and you're interested in Imperial Vienna. What is also marketed, so that's also a marketing strategy of the Viennese city tourism policy. So that's also what they actually want to address. So yeah, that's a complete different setting than the Kunstraum that is right in the center of Innsbruck. But you had also, if you don't mind to share, because you had actually on, as it nowadays goes, if it's not possible to have conversations in person due to COVID, or we don't like to have them, it's happening on the social media. So I don't know,
actually,
like
I think Gundula is here. Gundi, iPhone Gundi, I think is. But yeah, it happened to the gallerist where she was posting basically announcements on. There's a backstory to this. So first what happened was I was getting help from Paula Marszalak, who was helping me with more like online announcements and this and that. And we were trying to create an event on Facebook because I was at the galleries every Wednesday and I was holding basically like artist curatorial tours, etc., etc. Exactly as you said, Ivana, to give more of a detailed background as to where the ideas came from and how the installations connected to each other. And what my personal stance was in all of this. And Paula then typed in MAGA Meets Marie as a Facebook event, and her entire Facebook page and access just got shut down immediately, like no questions asked. And then when she told me about it, we realized it was creating something with the word MAGA in it and making it an event just kicked her out of Facebook. This was, I think, 2 months ago. No, last month. Sorry, my sense of time is a little bit off. This was last month. And so we sort of advertised this a little bit, that, you know, how I found like Facebook censorship to be completely like unconcerned with context or not even looking into that. And it was quite a total, like she still can't get into her account. Like I think her entire profile has been deleted or inaccessible. And sharing this news, Gundula, the gallerist, posted it in the local Hietzing Facebook page, basically the statement about the show event having been blocked by Facebook. And it came with a shot of the installation, which you saw, the GA and the chandelier installation. So the banners and the chandeliers. And all sorts of comments started coming in about like why this announcement was in English and not in German. I mean, we're in Austria. Like, why should we be concerned with an English announcement? And then it devolved into comments about whether the show was about BDSM because of the chandeliers. And, you know, I guess, of course, these were from men, like white men. So just the type of reactions, really like off-topic reactions and commentary that was going on in Facebook, like was really on the level of trolling. And it was quite surprising, but at the same time, like, wow, you know. So that's also, I guess, another story that gives to how context and explanations and being able to talk about things is really so important in shows. Yeah.
I would say that if somebody from our friends and the audience would like to ask or comment, you are welcome. You can do so. If not, I will have a comment on this. You said Schönbrunn and this imperial. This I always, when I have a chance to say a word publicly about this, I use it. Because it's these marketing strategies that are completely like with no like a tiny reflection.
Criticality.
It's so like no comments, and I think that more of such projects like Too Few are doing are absolutely necessary. And also you see in this kind of discussions that where they go and how much like where people are, that is once again a signal that it's so much needed to be discussed on this repetition of imperialism, unreflected imperialism in a country like Austria, in Vienna, in the city that is really like earning from this. It's profiting from its, still from its imperial past, selling it to the tourists, because in Vienna it's the main, it's a quite bit income of the cities from the tourism, and selling this Habsburg history and infrastructure and architecture, the imperial apartments, the Hotel Imperial, the imperial torte, like the cake, and so the more imperial, the better. So I think that this is these projects that are going into these histories, and then really like going deeper into unpacking the layers of imperial histories are very important and critical.
I think there is also what both of you mentioned it in different moments, but I think it is so how can, so let's say there are different artistic practices that address these issues in different ways. And then, what is the context that we can actually have discussions that are not repeating violence, discussions that are not like, also not telling people off in a way like, well, you don't know and you are, and that's, I think that's something that I think is, because yes, I mean, I personally prefer actually to have to have a complicated, complex discussion with the person present and not on Facebook, Instagram, or whatever it is, because it seems to be still, you know what I mean? Perhaps you pick up on something else, literally in a performative way, and still you have the person in front of you, and you see the person, and the person sees me. So that's something. So I think, but still nowadays we have to consider also, and that's so we have to consider what can you actually discuss then in the social media in that moment? I think it would be an important discussion to talk about what does it mean if someone feels alienated because there's an English announcement and then it's just telling it off. You know what I mean? I think it's not that I necessarily now would like constantly to have this conversation, but still I think if we don't have these conversations, where can we even go from there? So, but I would not like to have that on an Instagram account. That's the thing. So it's like, So,
or even, can I add something to what you're saying,
yeah.
Nina? Or even try to predict this kind of reaction, because it's not new. Let's say, living in Vienna, we know that people react this way about language. So how we can predict this kind of symbolic, let's say, symbolic reaction to what's going on, no? And try to respond to that in the announcement itself. I don't know, because it's something, maybe this personal interaction, it's impossible to happen because the range of reach that the internet means it's much broader than any personal interaction. And in this situation, not so, let's say, not so many people are going to the exhibition itself. So, and if it was an announcement of the artistic project, we should try to predict the people who are able to read the symbols, but also people who are not able to read this criticism. And the same I would say about the artistic operation that are implied in both works. It's very dangerous. You are in a liminal space between the understanding and not understanding of that symbols, because someone can think that you are like promoting the symbols when it's completely the opposite. You are trying to subvert those symbols and also make people aware of how these right-wing symbols or imperial symbols are still present in our contemporary times, which is very, let's say, disappointing in a way, because it seems to be that people did not process the history critically as it should be, right? I don't know. I'm just thinking that we should go deeply in this discussion, because it's very here in Brazil, for example, nowadays, just yesterday, the university made a call calling the attention of the audience that's following the web page, because this government that we have that's clearly right-wing, people seems to not understand what this extremist right-wing means, and the symbols that the government is using to show the character that it has to people, they do not grasp the symbols, you know, that that shows clearly that's right, extremist right wing. You know, that's why I think it's super important what you're doing, the artistic operation that you are doing, but we still need to have this pedagogical layer, this pedagogical base that get to inform people clearly the position that you are taking, to not take it as a joke, but really as a denounce, artistic denounce of the times that you are living and the subversion of these symbols. I don't know. It's just the things that popped up to my mind when you are talking.
I think that
it's super important.
I think it's also this kind of internet as a platform, or some kind of specific moments, you know, like this censorship from Facebook, you know, or I had this experience, some of you know, when we had in Belgrade an exhibition with artists who used some kind of like national heroes, subverting these pictures, actually questioning the consumerist aspects of these figures. And then because this came into the political debate and some kind of on a level that you can rarely have, you know, it came, you saw that when it goes to this bright, because we are moving in the art context, but where people still are used to also read this and get challenged in some ways. No, they will read the text or will come to a talk, or but when it goes out, it can be very full of misunderstanding, or when it has this internet distance, it can be still in our context, but it can cause irritation because it's decontextualized. This is the
Yes, and in the case of the Facebook, they blocked the account. I have the impression that it has to do with this automatic machine that identifies it's not the person behind it, but it's just automatic.
It was most definitely an algorithm that just
yes, exactly,
looked for anything that said MAGA, and if it was in the context
keywords,
of an event,
yes,
definitely would block the user. But then all this also is happening post-Capitol riot. Like before this, Facebook didn't even have this algorithm. I mean, Twitter only blocked Trump, like a week after the Capitol riot happened? You know, it's all this kind of bandaging that's happening post-fact. And this, I think, is what really got me agitated. It's like, okay, oh, now you care. You know, like, where were you when he was like saying all these things beforehand? Where was this kind of like, you know, preemption? But yes, but that's just me. Yeah.
Yes, I think that as we are online and these things can get exhausting, I think we can slowly finish. And if somebody really likes to stay, we can rearrange. But I think that if for an online event, where we had luck that it was working, the internet. So if you would, if somebody would have one more comment or a question, I would say you are welcome.
If someone who is present would like to watch the Delirio Vero, you just can write.
No, just a comment about the white tears. That the white tears that sounds very appealing to me. It seems to me that well, not to me, but I think a lot of people are discussing this question of the white tears. No, when the white society, and not talking just about race, but people who occupy certain structural positions in society. This white tear seems to be this this reaction when something bothers you, you can feel that, but you do absolutely nothing to change the structure of society. So this white tears is more about this perception of the moment, but being sure that this reaction is just momentarily. No, it's not really taking a post action or a real action or a real effort to really destabilize the ground where the society is based. No, it's so I think to really go further. This white tears is really trying to modify something structurally on society. Just that. It's very important that this expression appears. I think it calls people. It calls on the responsibility of people, real responsibility, not just momentarily.
I think what also the white tears, it's something physical. So it's also, you know, in the moment you read No to White Tears, it's something we all have been crying. We all have produced tears. So your body is also directly addressed. But then yes, the white tears moment, it appears in very particular moments. And then no one is taking away from me to cry. I can cry alone, or I can cry on Ivana's shoulders if she has the patience. But in certain particular group moments, actually, even if I have the urge to cry, I can actually go to the bathroom and cry. There is something because still whiteness is a structure. My body is read as white, so I have different responsibilities and. Regarding the body I'm carrying around, and I think that's also important to take in consideration.
Yes. But it's not just to release.
You know what I mean? That's like and to deviate, because it's also many times happening to deviate. Actually,
deviate attention, for
deviate
example.
attention, deviate. Yes, very hurtful discussions, and that's another. So it's also a strategy is to once again not be deeper, to as hurtful as it is. So it's like, but that opens up another huge discussion. So yes.
Sorry, it was just to mention something that
a whole presentation and discussion route on white tears without crying. First rule.
Yes,
no
please. But I think
turn off the camera if you start to cry. It's like
It's a good name for a Facebook event.
Facebook wouldn't
think
block
so.
it, I'm sure. It wouldn't be blocked. Wouldn't be. So yes.
Unless you say no to MAGA white tears, and then it will be blocked.
No MAGA white tears.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'd say we close, and thank you. It was.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Vishnu.
Thank you for the presentation. Now it was really possible. It was really possible to know the exhibition.
Obviously.
Even from far away.
From Cotia.
And the great work. We're so proud of you.
Oh, thanks, Louise. Louise is on the board of VBKÖ now.
Yes. And also
nice.
Mika is also here.
Yeah.
She's like, and
And Julia is also participating in the exhibition in Innsbruck.
Yes, secretariat.
Secretariat.
And I also see that Birta and I, we have been studying together at Pitzwart in Rotterdam. So yes, it's a long time ago that I see her post.
Can you turn on your camera? Because I haven't seen you. Ah, hey, good to meet you.
Hey. Sorry, we were in a different thing. Yeah, really good chat. Thank you so much.
You're in Buxenhausen.
I am in Buxenhausen at the moment. Yeah, I'm here, and I caught your show. Yeah, it was really nice. I'm looking forward to possibly seeing you at some point. if you are here again. And Stephanie, if you
Yes.
happen to
Come tomorrow. Come tomorrow.
What's happening tomorrow?
Tomorrow is the last day, and we will then at 3 start to pack, so you can come around 2. No?
You then, I guess.
Yes.
Of course, I'll swing by.
Yes.
Great.
So we
I'd
have
love to
some
see
real date in the real space.
Nice.
Done. I'll see you then.
Let me just make a last question. Not a question, theoretical questions, just practical. Yes. Do you have a leaflet or are you planning to do a book or something like that about the exhibition? It would be nice to have something published, right?
We don't have such resources, you know. We are
Yeah,
working on a quite but online you can read on the homepage in the English version.
Ah, super.
So
okay.
we publish in German a small leaflet, but we don't do it in English. We don't have the resources to do it, and also at the moment, I'm thinking like to have a publication maybe once in a couple of years, you know, to kind of like combine.
Recollect.
Yes. But
Super.
we don't have such resources to make for every exhibition a catalog or something like that. This is possible. Yes.
I think it would be also interesting for publication to bring it into a bigger picture. Let's put it like that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's like that. It's on another
Yes,
round.
because this exhibition
different
also,
questions and
yes,
yeah.
Yeah.
So in that sense, like, but it relates also to what we spoke a bit today, Ivana, that yes, that you said you can, I quote you, and you can tell me you didn't say it exactly like that, but but you said to me like, yeah, in comparison to so many other exhibition spaces, it takes actually a lot of effort and time and thinking to put together a text as detailed as yours, because many times, yeah, it's a small 300 words text that introduces, and that's that, and then it's the individual pieces discussed. But you, yeah, if you go to the website of the Kunstraum, you will see that Ivana wrote an intensive text, and we had also a very careful exchange about the text. So Ivana is also a curator who is open to dialogue, what for me was very important, and I very much appreciate this process, that it's not like that it's an exchange of thoughts and an exchange of like, yeah, how to put these things together, and even more so as there are two more collectives there. So it's like, yeah, that's then how do you bring the collectives in, and what space do you give them, and how do you introduce them, all this stuff.
Yes,
so that has to do with your practice as a curator, and that you were also open to accept that when I said, yes, I would like to, if we do a show, then let's bring in INVASORIX and the Secretariat for Ghosts, Archival Politics and Gaps, and you were not saying no to that. So yeah, and that tells about your practice, and that's also important.
Sure. And regarding text writing and so on, for me, and I see that people read, not everybody, and I see that they really appreciate this information, and I try to really write it for people who are not familiar with the discourses, and not for people who are high educated, you know. Still not just write completely like journalistic text, as a kind of a compromise between not giving up all the, you know, vocabulary, but still try to write it in a way that people who didn't study PhD at Academy of Fine Arts can process this text, you know, and learn something, because I see that they are interested, you know. I really see that people they want to know, they want to hear, there are people who are open to this contents. So that's why I also try, if I give the guided tours, people really appreciate. I speak in German mostly, and it's not my mother tongue. It's the language I learned in the last 7-8 years. So it's very simple German, and I just do it, you know. It's the way I do, you know. But people appreciate it, that I explain. They're very happy. Thank you very much. This means so much. It's really so.
I really appreciate that, Ivana, because for me, it's not being paternalistic, but trying to run away from the elitism that we know happens a lot in the artistic field, right? So it's not going from one to another, but trying a new way, a new pedagogical way inside these institutions. I think it's super important. Super.
And I can totally confirm what I didn't expect, but yeah, that people really appreciate that they have a text. So many people, and they sat down. It was also very nice to see them sitting down in different moments when they went through, as when I was around. Ivana has a lot more experience as you are on a daily basis at the Kunstraum. But people come in, then they sit down, then they read the text, then they go back, then they approach, then they ask. So that's actually
take their time,
I take
right,
the
to
time
absorb.
and I didn't expect that I would actually enjoy so much being there, also observing what's going on in your own collective setting of different voices coming together, and in a moment how you see how people engage in different ways. And yes, as you mentioned before, Ivana, also this moment when people say, so beautiful, and then yes, okay, that's the moment that you actually say yes, but but you have at least the attention. So yeah,
but what we also, for example, introduced in the last and then the end is that due to these restrictions of making events in the COVID time, we put a sign, guided tours for free here, you know. So people approach us and then, can you give me a tour? Because it's just one-to-one, you know, spontaneous tours. And people really react. They come and ask for this, you know, which is, it's also requiring our presence, but I think it's important that we are also there to communicate. And it doesn't have to be always one person, but it's kind of like, this is something we learned in this COVID time, and I will keep this practice of having this sign, you know, get a tour now here, you know, you just ask for it. Because people sometimes don't dare, or you don't want to bother them. You don't want to be aggressive, you know, it's also too much. Yes. But I think it's nice we exchange a little bit the strategies, how to work in this, in any way difficult times, or for this politically challenging situations and contexts. And thank you. And see you tomorrow in Kunstraum Innsbruck.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining. We know it's not easy.
Thank you. Thank you for your work and for your time too.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation.
Thanks for joining in, Julia. Thanks, big hug. Take care.
Yeah.
Yes. Be in touch. However you can be in touch.
Yes, if you need any links or anything from anything that we've discussed today, please just
drop a line. I will also fast write here my email.
You can, yes, and also you can write to Kunstraum on the homepage. You have the email if you don't copy quickly, and I can forward the mails to Stephanie or Nina.
Yes. Super.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Have a lovely evening, lovely day, Fernanda. Kisses,
you too.
Kisses.
Yes. Ciao,
Fernanda. Good to see you all.
Bye. Yes, good to see you. Ciao.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.